We're going to add database support to an existing small front-end, back-end project. The existing code base uses front-end services in React that connect to back-end services on a separate container, and the back-end services are in node.js in an Express server. And the back-end services, each one has been written as if it is supported by a database, but it isn't. It was just written quickly, and we instructed Cursor to do them in memory. But now we're at the point where the app is worth actually converting to a real database, so we want to upgrade it to use a database on the back end. We've already configured a simple Postgres container, pretty much just copy-pasted from a simple example. The configuration for that's pretty much trivial. But what we want to do is to get the LLM to look at the code base, decide what needs to change to make the individual services use a database, make sure that it connects to the database correctly, make sure that it connects to the container that has the database correctly, make sure it doesn't make any mistakes in how all that works. So our goal is that once this code is written, it all just works first time. There's no surprises, there's no confusion, there's no missing setup steps or anything like that. And we want it to be pretty much best practice, or at least good practice. So if it, for instance, decides to just use raw SQL queries, that would be a disaster. That's kind of just not acceptable for any real project at all. To make it a bit simpler, already decided to use knex, which is a fairly well-known standard but simple, fairly lightweight library for maintaining a database in a node.js environment. And I'm going to do this two different ways. So first of all, I'm going to show how I do it normally, which is me shepherding the AI, the LLM, and making sure it doesn't make stupid mistakes. And it does make stupid mistakes. The second way is we're going to try and get the pre-configure Cursor to do what I was doing, but do it automatically. And I've got a copy and paste of the instructions I used when I did a dry run of this. So this hopefully will just work, just because there's quite a lot to type out. So here's the description. Acting like a senior backend engineer, create a plan. So this is the key thing. We're going to create a plan for adding the database. And there's this key point here, without writing code. So I don't just want something that works. I want something that works and is well designed, well planned. I want a good file structure. And at the end, rather than it try and write all the source code, I want it to itemize which files need to change and create bullet point summaries of the changes that are needed. And this is a way of causing it just to output a very concise list of what it's changing and focus on the architectural issues and not get hung up in trying to write the code, which tends to write badly. So off we go. And I'm pretty sure I know what's going to go wrong, but we'll see what happens. It won't be wrong, it won't be terribly wrong, but it makes some mistakes that a proper senior engineer would not make. Now, unfortunately, this bit takes a little while. Probably about 20 seconds or so. I'm just going to get ready with what I'm expecting to have to say. So previously when I've done this, it does some things like being over eager on trying to store everything in a database rather than just the obvious things. And it tries to split things into separate databases, separate tables, separate database methods that should be in a single class. And it over-engineers things, and it misses out some things to do with knex. So let's see what it's come up with. All right, I'm just going to scroll up and grab this. So, because I've already run this once, it's already installed knex in the project, which is fine. It's noticed that the backend services have already been carefully written in the past using a singleton pattern and using maps or arrays to simulate in memory as if they had a database. And I've already maintained a good architecture overall to separate different handling of data. So let's look what it's come up with. So topics is a standalone thing, but conversations and messages, that's actually a single atomic piece of data. And prompt sections, prompt configs, obviously is also a single atomic piece of data. Email audit log shouldn't exist. Admin sessions shouldn't exist. Validation results, I have no idea. That really shouldn't exist. And it's over-engineered sticking in a base repository, which we definitely don't want. It's output some database tables. I think we'll just assume these are correct. There's no reason to assume otherwise. What else has it come up with? So it's then now trying to come up with a repository interface design. This is incredibly foolish. The different pieces of this app, so topics, conversations, prompts, etc., are fundamentally different. There is no similarity between how they work. There is literally no situation in which you would want a consistent repository pattern. It's just massive over-engineering for literally zero benefit. And then it's just saying about the code changes it would make afterwards. So these are probably correct. It'd be difficult to get this wrong, but we're going to, these things like email audit log, we're not going to touch that. So I'm just going to just double check what's in here. And let's have a look at the knex scripts. So it wants to add migrate, rollback, seed, and reset. So it's missed out a fundamentally required knex script again. Bit sad, but let's go. So I can reuse some of the things I told you to do last time. So first of all, oh, sorry, that's the old prompt. So the modifications I needed last time I was doing this. Yeah, we don't want to store admin sessions in a DB. Also, we do not want to store validation results. We do not want to store email audit logs. So those are just things it added that it really should have ignored. It's tried to split out prompt sections, values, and configs, and it shouldn't. It's added that base repository, which was a stupid idea. And knex needs a migrate make option. I'm pretending that I'm a bit naive and I don't know how to use knex, and I've heard of migrate make, but I know exactly why it should be in there. And it wanted to put so in most projects, this would be a sensible idea, it wanted to add a seed script to pre-configure the database. But in practice, we don't want that because this app does not need to be pre-seeded. I'm just going to double check if there's anything else in there stupid that it added this time around that I don't like. Topic, conversation, prompt. So I've told it to get rid of emails, told it to get rid of admin, I've told it to get rid of validation. Yeah, the rest looks good. And at the end, I've just reiterated, do not write code yet, because otherwise it will try and start writing the code 50-50. Continue to update the plans first. So what we're doing here is just basic good system architecture design, and this is what any senior engineer would expect to do a lot of their day job. Bit sad though that the LLM required us to do this, even though we told it to do this stuff intelligently up front. So now it's got topics as one thing. It's still got conversations and messages separate, which is a bit dumb, but the rest is looking quite good. It's removed the things that aren't needed, good. And it's concluded that base repository is a bad idea. Yes, it is a bad idea. There's only 3 to 4 repositories, so it isn't worth all the extra work. So it's going to make separate repositories, good. Migration commands, it has gone, yes, okay, I do need a make command. And has it described it properly? Well, it understands why they're needed, why might make is needed, but it's a bit. So it's a bit hiding the why you need the migrate make stuff there, but never mind. It's glossing over how important that really was. So here's its updated database tables. These are almost certainly correct, but this is a very this is a prototype version of the project, so I'm not that bothered about if it gets it exactly correct. I will come back to that later. Just seeing the change. Right, so conversation, replace topic, replace this, prompt editing, replace this, add DBA initialization. Okay, I just want to check. There was one other thing I had to change. Oh, yes. So again, it has tried in its files up here, it tried to make conversation and messages into separate migration files. So it's trying to maintain the DB schema for these two separately. That's insane. They are fundamentally connected, and you literally can't do them separately. So we're going to say, why are conversation and message migration separate? Yeah, and it concludes it was being dumb. So there we go. Only need 3 migration files for database. Brilliant. Now, can we do that without having to do all the manual correcting work? So we're going to quickly make a cursor custom set of rules for this. So let's make a new project rule. We're going to call it db and we're going to say cursor keeps changing the setup. So I'm going to say apply always just to make this simple. So we're going to say when doing system architecture, sorry, my typing here is not great. This is not my normal keyboard. Or any system design or planning, after each phase of planning, re-examine the plan so far and critically evaluate along the following lines. 1, KISS and YAGNI. So that's KISS is keep it simple, stupid, and YAGNI is you ain't gonna need it. So these are famous maxims in good software engineering and design. Have you over-engineered this solution, or is it the right level of abstraction? If in doubt, ask the user to, what else did I put in there? When designing database, so the migrations where it tries to have way too many migration files. When designing DB migrations or DB tables, aim to put strongly related data into shared migration files, e.g. don't separate out many files for different, when one file would have sensibly covered all the, and this is a bit cheating because I don't want to put that much level of detail in, so let's get rid of that. Let's instead, I'm just going to look back, what were my corrections? We'll stick with the original design, but what did we not like? So base repository, this one should be covered by the over-engineering. Prompt sections, values, configs, single migration file, so all of this should be covered. So the only ones that may not be covered are the stuff that shouldn't have gone into a database and the migrate make and the seed file. So let's see. We'll try and get it to do some of those without even asking for it, but let's just say specifically, no, I was going to say specifically with knex, add a migrate thing, a make script call, but I don't want to get that specific. I want this to be generic. So I want something more like think carefully about any setup and scripting changes. Have you missed any steps in the creation, setup, configuration of the DB, or in the ongoing maintenance scripts that will be needed. So the implication there is don't forget the make knex make requirement there. And sorry, here we go. And I'm just going to say carefully consider which data definitely needs to go in the database and which probably does not. If in doubt, ask Caesar. Save that. Let's then try this again. So the benefit of copy paste is I can rerun the exact same query. The goal here being, if I'd had to get as detailed in my cursor rules file as I was in my corrections, there was no point in the corrections because I would have just done them in a chat. But if I can keep this, if I can solve this by having a very generic self-correcting set of guides for the agent, then I may need to do less shepherding and correction for future work. So let's see how well this works. We're expecting the thinking to take about the same as it did last time. But did it do it well? Services that should stay in memory, excellent. Message validator, score load calculator, LLM, good. Admin service should have been in there. Auth service, could benefit from persistence, could, but actually shouldn't. So it still screwed that one up. That's a bit unfortunate. What else has it done? Now let's see. Here we go. So conversations and messages are still separate. Topics and prompts are still separate. Email audit has gone in there. Did you not tell me you were not doing email audit? Oh no, you did put email audit in there. So done a pretty poor job. And yeah, so ultimately we still need to do all the same connections. I think there's one thing it's got right that it didn't get before. So that cursor rule file has just not helped. Now what we can do is check that it did actually run the cursor file. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a guardrail in here to make it, to confirm it is actually using the cursor rule files. Cursor used to have a debugging system for this that they seem to have deleted, as in, I remember using it, I'm sure it wasn't a custom plugin, but it no longer exists in the interface, and it's, there is a thing you can do, which is, I think this is the modern replacement actually, but there used to be a button for this, and there used to be a debug mode, and I'm sure it wasn't a custom plugin, I'm sure it used to be core cursor. It's now just outputting all its inbuilt roles it could have used or did use. This is one of the reasons that so many people do not use cursor rules, because the debugging is a nightmare. I think it's going to say it actually didn't even use my rules. One of the things I've noticed is that project rules, cursor seems to need you to restart for it to actually adopt them. Yep, didn't use them. The official docs do not say this is necessary. Let's see what happens if we quit. Ah, the file wasn't saved. No, that was a change I'd just made. I'm now going to restart cursor. So here we are. I've restarted cursor. As I said, this isn't in the docs. It's not supposed to be required, but I've often found in practice it is. So let's try again with a copy paste. Will we get difference? Oh, I'd had a zoomed in screen before. Maybe that's a bit too zoomed in. So the reason I had actually saved it last time, it's just that I'd started adding that. I was going to put at the end of the conversation output, I read and understood your rules, something like that to make it guaranteed that it would have spotted it. But then I realized I wanted to use the asking it built in what it actually used. While it's doing that, I'm going to just go and copy paste the question I asked at the end of the previous one. So this will be ready to go when it's finished answering. I mean, it's not looking great because it's still overdone this lot. Way more things than should be in there. So notice that conversations and messages are related to each other. So are you going to stick them in the same conversion file? No, you're not. Conversation topic, auth. No, auth does not need to be done. This time round, it has actually finally spotted the necessity of a make file, make script. And it's added a lot more verbose stuff around database connection, database management, and so on. It's lying. None of that's actually needed. Yeah, none of that's needed. All of that is already correctly configured, and I've confirmed that. It's decided it's still going to make the unnecessary base class. It's now made up a whole load of model classes, which are almost entirely useless. Massive overkill for a project this size. This time around, it has at least spotted that the email service doesn't need to be persisted, thankfully. But the nature of how different its response is here suggests to me that it may well have actually read the instructions this time. However, I do want to point out if it has noticed So it has noticed the instructions. It was there in the thinking part. If you saw it at the top, it came up with, look, there you go. It's found the rule. So the restart was necessary for it to use it. Thanks, cursor. Thanks for not telling us that. And it then just goes, well, actually, I just didn't follow the instructions. So not only did it not follow the instructions, but here's the thing that really bothers me. Phase 1, basically the same. Phase 2, it goes on about a whole load of extra detail that isn't necessary and isn't relevant. Phase 3 is so small we can barely even see it, where it justifies the thing it didn't need to justify. And then phase 4, detailed file changes. This is correct, although not the changes we wanted. But when we get onto phase 6, main app, and phase 7, Docker environment, and phase 8, additional, this is all wrong. This is all just waffle. It's low quality, a migration strategy with number of days involved. This is just trash. We don't want this. We didn't ask for it. It adds nothing. And this is what I've seen a lot when using cursor rules. When you use cursor rules, you get a worse quality response, which is what drives me back to my original way of doing this, unfortunately, which is to do it by a conversation. I start with this, and then I see what comes out, do a very quick correction of it, and then I just list the things that you did bad and continue to update the plans, which is all a bit disappointing, really. And I will do future videos that go into details of how we can do much better cursor rules than this, but I just wanted to show that quite sensible seeming rules quite often back